Siman Test Sif Hey. Here, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch explains to you how to make tzitzis. So we know you're supposed to have 5 knots, which are really 5 double knots, and you're supposed to have 4 strings, but when hung through and both sides are hanging down, it looks like 8 strings. You're supposed to have 1 shamish, which he calls a shamish, which is supposed to be the longer string, and that's the same string that you're supposed to start doing the rings. So the way it works is the first time you do a double knot. Then you do 7 rings. After 7 rings, you make another double knot. Then you do 8 rings. Then you do a double knot again. Then you do 11 rings. After you do 11 rings, then you do another double knot, and then you do 13 rings, and then a double knot, and then you're done. Now he says that really the amount of space between each double knot is supposed to be the same amount of space. That makes it look nicer. So therefore what you should do is, since you keep going higher in number of rings, you should make the lower rings, the 7 and the 8, a little wider apart, so that when you come to the 11 and 13, they're closer together, and that way each space is the same amount of space between each double knot. Also, he says what's nice is that all of the knots and all of the rings should only take up 1/3 of the total amount of the tzitzis. So that should be 1/3, and then hanging should be 2/3 of the tzitzis. Also, the strings that are on one side, when you initially hang the 4 strings, so the strings on one side should always be together, and the strings on the other side should also always be together. So you should not mix them up as you're going through, which is why some people, when they're making tzitzis, they make a slip knot around one of the sides of the 4 strings together, and that way you'll never mix up the 4 strings from one side with the 4 strings of the other side.